you can never stop learning the voice. And I thought,
Yes.
wow, is that ever true? Because it doesn't matter how long you've been singing, and I'm sure you'll attest to this, you can still keep learning and developing. And it doesn't matter what your age is. It's what do you want to do with your voice?
Welcome back to The Charismatic Voice, where we break down your favorite music and talk about what makes it extraordinary. I'm your host, Elizabeth Jaroff. I'm a vocal coach, producer, YouTuber, and an internationally acclaimed opera singer. And nothing makes me more giddy than demystifying how great voices give us goosebumps. Here on this podcast, I chat with iconic musicians and artists from around the world, digging deep into their histories, vocal technique, and behind-the-scenes happenings throughout their careers. We also talk about whether they prefer tea or coffee, and all kinds of quirks you never knew about them. Every episode is a unique, scientific, and practical guide for all things vocal. We aim to grow in appreciation together so that you fall more in love with music every week. I invite you to join me as we dig into the whys and hows of great music and great singing. Let's get to it. Dream Theater is legendary for their complex, progressive music, and James LaBrie, their lead singer, is legendary for his ability to weave a melody over rapidly evolving time signatures and musical textures. James has a massive range and a distinctive gathered sound which cuts through to deliver his message. But one of the things I was most curious about going into this interview was not just how James sings complex music so well, but how he overcame one of the most difficult things any singer ever faces, how James overcame a serious vocal injury. In 1994, James was stricken with a severe case of food poisoning that led to a vocal hemorrhage, which is essentially a blood vessel rupturing in the vocal folds. Yet he has continued to perform and has a long and impressive history, and he also just released a new solo album. James LaBrie is like the Energizer Bunny who keeps going and singing and impressing us all. So of course, I was pumped when he agreed to this interview. I wanted to ask about all of the anatomical details of his injury and how he made such a brilliant comeback, and what he does today to stay so healthy. We got together to drink tea and chat over Zoom on a fall afternoon, and I couldn't be more delighted to share this incredibly transparent conversation with all of you. Welcome, everyone, back to The Charismatic Voice. I am here today with James LaBrie. James, thank you so much for taking time to have tea together and have a great conversation.
Thank you. Glad to be here. It's excellent. We get to talk about ourselves. I love it. Okay.
I love that too. I just want to hear a lot about you, so it's going to be perfect.
Okay, cool. Okay.
First question.
Yeah.
Tea or coffee?
So it's a combination of both. I do, look at this thing. Supersize.
Whoa, that is supersize. I need a supersize.
I got to drink it fast enough or it gets cold, and then I don't want it.
You know, right? They have those little warmers that you can put in. Anyhow.
but I do both. So I find in the fall and winter, I drink more tea, but I always start my day with 2 espressos. Regardless. And I don't know about you. I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Because when I'm on tour, all I drink is plenty of water. I don't touch alcohol. I don't smoke.
Yeah.
But when I'm on tour, I only drink a little warmer than warm water and a splash of honey. And I won't drink tea because I read many years ago in some article that it can strip your voice when you're singing, especially with lemon. Now, is that true, or is that some one person?
So that's it. Also, there's such a huge range of tea. So no, that's in general that wouldn't be true. As far as stripping your voice, there's a couple things that are in tea that sometimes aren't good. Sometimes tea has caffeine in it, which if you're not drinking alcohol, coffee, those are because it's dehydrating. So some teas have more caffeine than others. So, might be good to stay away right before a performance. Caffeine actually does make your voice. Ooh, what is this?
So this is Sloan Tea Merchants. It's from the UK. And I get this in, and it's a ginger twist, non-caffeine.
Perfect. It's an herbal tea. Yeah, that's like right. It's perfect.
Yeah. And this is amazing. It tastes incredible. I steep it anywhere from 5 to 10 minutes, depending on what I'm doing. Mm-hmm. And it's absolutely delicious. It's delicious. So it's Sloan. I'll send you the info.
I want to try some of that.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to send you some tea too. So you're going to have to let me know what kinds of tea you like.
Yeah. Well, there's that, and then there's the Earl Grey, and then there's the chamomile. I like that. And that's about it. I would go orange pico. I don't know. There was one that I was into for a while, and then I was getting acid reflux. It was blueberry ginger something. Okay. And I couldn't believe it. Like it was maybe a half hour, 40 minutes. And I go, what is going on? And it just didn't feel, and I cut it out. I was like, it's got to be this because I don't get it. Mm-hmm. And I stopped it and went away. So
that's interesting.
I don't know.
Acid reflux is no joke for singers. Even small amounts that most normal non-pro vocal users wouldn't notice can cause your voice to feel scratchy or tender and reduce your range. Reflux occurs when stomach acid flows back up the esophagus, and that acid can spill over into the larynx. This irritates the sensitive tissues around the vocal folds and causes swelling in the region. Just one reflux attack can have negative effects lasting for weeks. There are all kinds of things that can trigger a reflux episode, and singers in particular may be more prone to experiencing these due to high levels of muscular activity around the stomach and/or due to eating late at night after a performance. Diet, in particular, plays a big role in reflux. Some people are able to stop reflux altogether by altering their diet, but that usually means they can't enjoy things like coffee, chocolate, alcohol, citrus, and fried foods. Many singers will choose a combination of diet alteration with medication instead, but it's ultimately up to the individual. There are certain teas that have more tannins in them that can increase reflux. And what you'd mentioned about the stripping of the vocal folds, like sometimes there will be aromas that vocal folds are a little more sensitive to, and it depends on the person too. So really, people are finding out more and more that they have different food sensitivities. And so I think if you know that something is not working well for you, then just don't do it.
See, you know what's interesting about that, what you just said about the foods and that. I can eat a pizza slice and go on stage and sing. Other singers tell me if they do that, it's all phlegmy and stuff like that. Yeah. But I can't have garlic before going on stage because I find that it lowers my voice. I get some real deep.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. And it so that when I'm singing some pretty high stuff, I'm like, no, this doesn't work. And it's so funny because we'll have catering out with us. And I'll come into the catering sometimes and they'll go, oh, yeah. So I go, okay, so which one doesn't have garlic? And they'll go, everything does. And I'm like, you didn't get the memo? I can't have this.
No garlic.
I can't. But anyways, yeah. So it's pretty crazy. Like you talk to enough singers and they're like, oh, I'm fine with that. Oh, no, I can't do that. And it all comes down to the individual. Yeah.
Totally. I read a bunch of research about any sort of like dairy product issue, essentially. And the most recent stuff that I've read had said that it doesn't seem to be lactose related, but casein protein related. And that there's a surprisingly high number of people that are sensitive to casein protein, which would cause the phlegm and stuff.
Right.
So I'm not that way at all. I can drink some tea with some cream in it and go on stage. That's really fine. Yeah. Or yogurt. Love it.
Yeah. I do Greek yogurt and that's fine. And that doesn't bother me. I don't drink milk because I found that that's what it was doing to me.
Oh, okay.
The milk was creating the phlegm, so to speak.
Interesting.
Yeah. So I stay away from that. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, but I've got a green rooibos paradiso today. So this is like a kind of tropical herbal tea, which is fun.
Oh,
it's really fun.
Yeah. See, a lot of people are into that, the green tea. I can't. I try it every so often and I can't wrap my head around it.
So this one's green rooibos, which is a little bit different from green tea cincha. The rooibos is that red tea that we might know as being from Africa. And that's the one that's truly herbal. It has kind of a certain earthiness to it. I don't know. It's different, but it's really delightful actually. And it feels very nice on the voice.
Okay. I'm willing to try for sure.
I'll send you a rooibos to try.
Okay.
That'll be fun.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I love how much you're into tea. That's fun.
Yeah. This is my favorite for sure. The ginger twist for sure. Yeah, I think you'll love it.
Check that out.
Yeah.
Love it. Okay. So we were talking before and I said, hey, are you familiar with the channel? You said, yes. And you mentioned you had a story. And then we were like, oh, wait, we got to wait to turn on the record for that.
Yeah. So a few weeks ago, a friend of mine said, hey, you got to go on YouTube. There's this girl, she has charismatic voice, and she was doing a critique on you. I guess it was from Lunar Park, and it was a live show, and I think I was singing Metropolis.
Yes, that's the first time I heard it.
I said, he goes, you should go over and check it out because she's very informed and knowledgeable. And I said, okay, I want to check it out because there's a lot of people out there nowadays, that are saying they're informed, and then you listen to them and go, no, I don't think so. But, but anyways, so I watched it and I was thoroughly impressed and I enjoyed everything that you were saying about it. So I was like, oh, okay, I want to check you out more. And then I saw that you were doing other well-known singers from around the world. So you can tell you come from a very knowledgeable background, obviously.
Thank you.
So anyways, that's how I stumbled upon it. So I'm actually a new fan. I'm a new fan because I've only been around 3 weeks. Like I said, it was about 3 weeks ago that I saw it.
Our subscribers have been asking for Dream Theater for a while too. So I think that's really interesting. And they did put on a Patreon playlist for us a while back. The Answer Lies Within. And so I've gotten like a little taste. And then I actually, just before our interview premieres, so today, same day, we did another one earlier. So that way I got I feel like I have a little more understanding of, I feel like more of a trajectory of your career. I mean, it's so few touch points, really, truly. But that's also because for me, it's important that I stick to that first time in front of camera is the first time hearing it.
Yeah, true.
So
that's true.
Cool.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited that you got to see that and that you liked it too.
I did. Absolutely. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, when I was talking about your vowel modification where you were like, yes, I modify those vowels.
Yeah. And you know what? If you speak to enough singers, anyone, they'll say the same thing. Exactly what you were touching on is what a lot of singers say. Like they're not going to sing C when you're up. Hitting a C sharp and D. Oh yeah, sure, you go for it. First of all, I think it would sound horrible. I think it would sound so strained. And that here's the other thing is like it's funny because I do these cameo things, and just because the fans are saying, "Can you sing Happy Birthday?" or "Can you sing a bit of this song?" And what I tend to do is because I'm doing it a cappella, right? So I want them to hear my voice, so I'll do it a cappella. And what I tend to do is I elongate my notes so that they can really feel. But then there's people out there that go, well, he can't sing at the same tempo that he was singing on the album. There must be something wrong. And I'm like, what? Because I extended the notes, I can't sing like I did on the album. Well, if I was in front of the band, I'd have to because I got to be at the same tempo. Yeah. Or I'm going to sound like I'm drunk. Right? So anyways, it's just strange people's interpretation when you do something to give a good example of what you're actually doing and maybe expand upon it, that their interpretation is you're covering up something when that's impossible, especially when you're singing a cappella. You're naked, so to speak. There's no covering it up. So it's strange to see, because we live now in a world where you're completely exposed. You are never without anyone seeing you at any given time, whether you're well or you're unwell, and you have to deal with that. You have to deal with that. So I think you being in the business as well, I'm sure there were times that you had to go out on stage where you're like, I don't know. Maybe you didn't. Maybe
absolutely
you're a
did.
Machine.
I absolutely did.
Like any singer that I've ever talked to, I'll say, hey, so what do you do when you're sick? Okay, you got a bad cold or you got a fever. What do you do?
You're stealing my questions.
Oh, am I?
Okay. What do you do when you're sick?
Okay, what do I do when I'm sick? I'll tell you what I do when I'm sick. This is what I do. So I do drink a lot of ginger in hot water. Not hot, because that can't be good, right? Mm-hmm. No. Okay. So it's close to hot, but not. So I drink the ginger throughout the day, and then when I'm in the hotel, I keep doing that. I drink copious amounts of water. Copious amounts of water. Take my vitamins every day. I'd get on the treadmill, do a little bit of speed walking and that, but not too much because that breaks down your immunity too if you really exhaust yourself. So I do that and I get plenty of sleep. And then I got something here for you.
Oh goodness.
Okay. So then I do a very slow warm up. And I was turned on to this by, I don't know if you know Jamie Vendera. Do you know Jamie Vendera?
Sounds familiar, but not super familiar.
He's a vocal coach in America. He's in Ohio, I think Columbus, I think he is. Anyways, Jamie and I, we've been in touch for the last 15 years. We've known each other. So Jamie knows about my schedule. Like Dream Theater, we do 3-hour shows. I'm singing 5 and 6 nights a week.
Yes.
I'm 58 years old now. So,
and you're still doing it.
Yeah, exactly. So what he turned me on to a few years ago, because I think you're aware of my vocal injury.
Yeah, well, we're going to talk so much about that, I hope.
Okay.
Yeah.
So right now, let's talk about the positive aspects. Okay, so he turned me on to this. This is called the Doc Vox. Okay.
Dog Fox?
No, Doc, like Dr. Vox. Dr. Vox.
Oh, Doc Fox. Okay, gotcha. Yes.
So Dr. Vox, V as in Victor, O-X. And this came about with a girl. She was a doctor in Finland, Marketa Sivo. And back in 1991, she started going to voice conventions. And she would do workshops introducing this. And what it does is it elongates your vocal folds artificially. Right. And creates that back pressure, it's just like, and this is bubbling and I put it around number. Anyways, so Jamie turned me on to this and I said, come on. Like at first I'm like, come on, really? That's going to make a difference. He goes, I'm telling you right now, if you did that 20 minutes before you start like really opening up and you go on stage and I'll give you, your scales that you should be using, all this Kleb stuff. And I said, oh, okay. So I started doing it. And I am not kidding you, Elizabeth. This thing is amazing.
So at this moment, James is holding a blue water bottle that is partially filled and has a straw going into it. And he's singing into the straw, kind of like singing into a kazoo. The water obstructs the air from coming out too quickly and causes gentle reverse air pressure, which goes back into your mouth and throat and is the equivalent of giving your vocal folds a little massage. And yes, after this interview, I did talk with the team over at Dr. Vox and tried out their system, and it's great. 10 out of 10 would recommend.
So I do that to warm up. And then when I'm done the show, I do it again to cool down.
Warm down.
Yeah. So this thing is a godsend. This thing is an absolute godsend. I highly recommend it to anyone that is a vocalist, whether you're on a wicked, taxing tour or whether you're doing one show a week. Use it because it just opens everything up. It's amazing. I swear by that.
I'm really excited right now because Singing Through Straws is one of the things that I'm super passionate about spreading information about. I think it's the most groundbreaking vocal research that's been done in the last 30 years. And I got to actually take a course with the guy that did the research on it.
Was that Dr. Ilta?
Dr. Ingo Tietze is the one. And he quantified all of these SOVT exercises, so semi-occluded vocal tract exercises, and proved that actually singing through a straw is one of the most beneficial. And you can do it,
it's
like
crazy.
What you're doing into the water is crazy good. I'll have people just sing through straws and pinch them. I have these like singing straws that there's a whole bunch of little straws in the set, but I have so many straws around here. So like a little thing like this where you have ones and you can clean them, that kind of thing.
Yeah, which is important.
Right? It gets dirty very easily.
Very important. Yeah.
But singing through a straw, it revolutionized, I think, how we train in voice. And I just love hearing you talk about how it opens everything up. It makes singing so much more easy, and it makes it just more efficient. It helps with the vocal folds just coming together more cleanly with less strain. It's amazing.
It really is. It really is. Yeah. I mean, I couldn't believe it. I was just like, oh, come on. It's another one of these, little gimmicks. And then I started using it and I'm like, wait a second. I'm going out there, especially if you're in fine form to begin with. That just makes you Superman. So you go out there, you feel great. You feel confident. Because let's face it too, another big nemesis for a lot of singers is the whole psychological aspects of being a singer. Right? It's like, okay, I got to go out there. Okay, I got to, it's crazy. And unless you're a singer, you don't realize that whole dialogue within, it's, the dichotomy of it it's wow.
It's tough, a lot. Right?
It is. It is very tough.
And man, but straw singing is so good. And I remember the first time I tried it as well. I think I was working on Violetta at that point, or it might have been Pamina.
Jeez.
I did those roles a bunch. And my voice teacher, his name was Stephen King, and he is based in Houston, Texas. And he was like, sing through a straw. And I was like, what are you talking about? Why would I sing through a straw? I'm singing opera. Right. I got to get it out there.
Yeah.
And it really helped me learn to not pump too much air, not overblast my sound all the time, essentially. Go more for efficiency in the sound, make it ring, get it out over the orchestra without essentially just trying to pound my vocal folds with air the whole time.
Yeah. I hear it. Which creates the vocal fatigue.
Yes, exactly.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
exactly.
I hear you. Sometimes I find myself, if I get too excited on stage and, you're really getting into it. It's a heavy part and you're really into it. And then all of a sudden you're like, whoa, slow down. Like, bring it back, You're so caught up in it. The adrenaline is just flying through you like jet fuel.
Yeah.
And then you have to like say, no, remember what you're doing. You got to do this again tomorrow night and the next night. Slow down. Yeah.
Vocal fatigue for professional singers is similar to fatigue that professional athletes might feel. If you work out hard at the gym, the next day you're probably going to feel sore. There is a lot of pressure and muscle coordination involved in singing. So if a singer goes too hard at it one night or sings with too much force or not enough body support, it's normal that their voice might be tired the next day. Vocalists need to have time to recuperate between shows, and they also need to measure and build up endurance. The touring schedule can be brutal for singers who need to perform every night without proper vocal rest. It's essential for a professional singer to gauge how much they're able to repetitively give on stage, or they risk doing some serious damage and/or needing to cancel shows. Can you talk a little bit? So this is all about like the clean singing aspect, right? So really just the true vocal folds and how those are working. But you also add some distortion into your sound. How do you think about that? Do you know like where you're essentially, what that point of constraint is that creates the distortion in your throat?
Yeah, it's kind of like when I go, and then I kind of just embellish upon that. And it was something that I naturally fell into. when I was around, I think I would have been about 18, 19 years old. I was experimenting. Like the singers that I grew up loving were, Freddie Mercury and Steve Perry, Lou Gramm. And another guy that I loved or two other guys I loved their voices, and they have that rasp in their voice consistently, is Bryan Adams and Rod Stewart. And so they're coming more from the street angle, when they sing, but they do it so amazing. So I just naturally just started experimenting, so that I could do it and let it kind of roll above. If I'm saying this correct me, please. But I'm letting it kind of roll above. Like what I'm picturing inside is that, I'm letting it kind of roll above my chords.
That's totally right.
I'm not going like those other guys do, because oh my God, I'm hearing guys do that. I'm like, dude, how long are you going to do that? You're going to pay the price, the ultimate price. So I always kind of, like if you listen to, I did it all over the Awake album. I was doing that all over the Awake album. I was doing that whole rasp, and it was so funny because I wanted to introduce that because that was a big part of who I was. I was doing, but Images and Words was all clean. It was just like, all that stuff going on. And then when I came out with Awake, I went, hey guys, I'm going to introduce a little bit of the raspiness of me. And they're like, well, whatever. Yeah, you go for it. Right. But as well, I did keep it clean. So I was trying to find that balance. But it was funny because a lot of the fans were like, what the hell? When I first heard that, I was thinking, that can't be James. And I'm like, yeah, that is who I am. And it was funny because it was such a departure of how they were introduced to me. But yeah, I only use it and incorporate it for more of as a tool. As a tool, it's not something that I like to go to too often, because even though I feel that I don't feel any strain when I do use it, I feel that if I was to constantly do it, I think it would eventually make me a little tired, I think. If I was singing like that all the time, I'm saying.
Yeah.
Because you're not letting the chords, as you said earlier, they're not just coming together smoothly. There's a little bit of distortion in there now.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, these guys down here, like, they're still, like, doing their, like, waka, waka, waka thing, like, down here, just nice and cleanly. And then usually there's, like, a little something on top that's, like you were saying, like, you roll it off the top. There's something else that's there.
It's like floating. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. And I could see that maybe if you're using that all the time, it is an extra engagement that's essentially in your vocal tract.
Exactly.
So with that extra engagement, there's just muscles that are engaging, and they're going to get tired if they're engaging all the time.
Right. Yeah, I agree. Yep. Yeah. So cool. I use it. Yeah. I kind of pick my time with it for sure. Yeah.
Oh man. It's so fun. I love it when I have a list of questions that are over here, and then we just go like, woo, 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 the whole time. That's the best indication of like, this is a good conversation.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, well, okay. You mentioned about some artists that were really influential to you, and I'd read before, like, some of the names and, looked at some of your other interviews to understand, okay, these guys were a big deal to you. And I'm wondering, you mentioned a couple of them really inspired you to have some more of that raspiness in your tone. What about Freddie Mercury's voice in particular did you love? And are there other things in other artists that you feel like you loved and tried to emulate?
Well, with Freddie, he could be powerful. He could be so sweet and angelic. He wasn't scared to use his falsetto. Nowadays, everyone's using falsetto, especially in pop. But back then, not everybody was like transitioning between full voice and falsetto. And I remember hearing him and going, oh my God, this guy, he's unlimited. And he just pushes the envelope. And because of that, his expression is unparalleled. So I was completely captivated by him, enamored with his voice. And I just kept listening to him. And then, the other guy like Steve Perry, just listening to him, his range, his feel, his tone was just gorgeous. And just his placement. Like you could tell, he's using the passaggio and he was using it properly, and the way he would project it, and then he could pull back on. It's all about control. And these guys, like Lou Gramm, I think he had one of. I don't listen to what he's doing lately, But, at the time that I was listening to him in the late 70s and early 80s, he had this most incredible sounding voice with just so much power and expression. Same thing. I think Lou Gramm was one of the best. Like even when he was singing like, blue morning, blue day, won't you see things my way? Like all that stuff. Like I was like, oh my God. And then at the end of the song, blah, blah, he's like way up there going for it. And I'm like, that's amazing. That to me, that's dynamic, and that's what makes the ride a thrill. And I think, I've always said, like a singer, and I've been asked this throughout my career, when you approach a song, what do? I said, well, the first thing I do is I think about the melody, right? What's the melody? What's going to make sense for this song? Once that's established, I dig deep into the lyric, because to me, we are the narrator. We are the story. We're the storyteller. So to me, it's like, how do those, first of all, what's the literal meaning behind it? So whether I wrote the lyric or someone else did, I want to know the literal meaning behind it. And then I read it and I see how it affects me emotionally. What does it say to me from all my experiences in life? And how would I, if I was that, going through that, how would I express it? So a great example of that is when I did The Astonishing.
Like your father once said, life is not what you're given. It is how you decide to live on the path you have chosen. So together we'll build a new world. A better world. We'll build a new world. Our new world.
I had to sing 7 different characters. I had to be, including female.
Oh, I need to hear this.
I'm a
Oh,
female.
that sounds amazing.
Yeah, you got to listen to it. So with that, I had to take every character and I had to think, okay, so this is how I went about it, Elizabeth. So I went in the first day and I said to my engineer, Rich Chicky, at the time, I said, okay, Rich, the only way I'm going to do this is if we can come across each character. But what I want to do is I want to sing a verse of this character, Gabriel. And then I want to sing a verse of this one and a verse of this one. And then once I feel that I've established that person's voice, then I'm going to do all of who they are. And then I'm going to refer back to that voice that I created for that one, which I do. And I do all of her or the brother or so on and so forth. And that's how I came about it. But I had to read into the lyrics. So for a few weeks before I went into the studio, I kept reading the lyrical content. And then just that kind of gave me the blueprint as to what voice I should use. And I got to tell you something. This is not to pat myself on the back, but I am going to pat myself on the back. So it was so gratifying to me because when the album came out, Dennis DeYoung from Styx and Steve Smith, the drummer from Journey, reviewed it. And they both said, Dennis DeYoung's words were said, bravo to James LaBrie for doing this. He said he did an exceptional job. For someone to take on 7 roles is incredible. And Steve Smith, the same thing, tour de force, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, see, because these guys, especially Dennis DeYoung being the vocalist that he was with Styx, they understand, they're theatrical. Dennis DeYoung, oh my God, is he ever theatrical? But he got what I was going after and how I went about it, and then how it ultimately ended up. And the same with Steve Smith, who's a phenomenal drummer. He speaks for himself, and he was in one of the greatest bands in the world, Journey. So to me, it was like, thank you, because you got exactly what I was going after, and it is appreciated by my peers. So it was great. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to check that out. That sounds amazing. About the drums a little bit, I skipped over that earlier, but I know that you grew up playing drums, and obviously singing with Dream Theater, like the time signatures are just always shifting. It's really amazing. So I want to know a couple different things. Do you feel like having that drum background really helped with that in particular? Do you get excited about complex time signatures or shifts? And also, do you have any specific things that you employ when there's a bunch of time signatures shifting? Like, do you sing heavier on certain downbeats, or do you try to like mask where those downbeats are by singing more smoothly across the line?
Yeah. Okay. So the first part would be definitely playing the drums did help me because first of all, I couldn't be in a band like this and going 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Can you imagine? I'd lose my marbles. Yeah. So to me, I feel it. And I remember, even when I came in on Images and Words, the guys would be like, what are you doing to stay in time with this? And how are you singing like, a song like Learning to Live? And I was like, I just feel it. I'm feeling it. So to me, that definitely did make a huge difference. Yeah. Playing drums for 12 years. Absolutely. No question. As far as what you asked before is the melodies, do I accentuate maybe a downbeat or the upbeat or whatever? Yeah. To me, I think that the melody always dictates how I'm going to land and where I'm going to land. So regardless of the time signature or that specific or that particular section, it's always something that I feel that the melody is my guide.
I just have to hop in here and say that 99.9% of singers could not even begin to keep up with Dream Theater's insane rhythms and time signature shifts. Singers in general often need to put in a little more work to level up their rhythm skills. The main goal of a singer is to communicate emotion through elongated pitches, so often the rhythm will take second place. The melody is that line of emotion, and James is absolutely right that the melody should ultimately guide a singer. But to naturally be able to stay in sync with a band that changes time signatures faster than you can hit the like and subscribe buttons, that's incredible. And James's background in drums is key to his being able to be the front man of Dream Theater.
Because there's a lot of instances in Dream Theater music where you would say that, okay, that is a downbeat, but it isn't a downbeat. But it feels like it because of what I'm dynamically singing, right? It's just, that happens quite a bit. So for me, it's just a matter of making the melody. And trust me, Elizabeth, let me tell you something. I've been out on stage before. This has probably happened to you. I'm sure it has. But have you ever got caught up in a moment where you're on stage and you're thinking about something completely different? Like, oh yeah, I got to get in touch with so-and-so after this show. I don't know if that's ever happened to you, but it'd be like these little fleeting moments where, and I've talked, the other guys, we talked about it over the years. Oh my God, you wouldn't believe what I was thinking about. Oh yeah, I got to get back, right? I got a doctor's appointment next week, so I'm going to, and it's like, but little do they know that you have like all these like thousands of thoughts going through your head.
Always,
at each split second. But a couple times it's caught me by surprise because I'll get so caught up and I can be singing words like it's on autopilot. And then all of a sudden we go into a really intense section and I'm thrown. I'm like, ugh. And I'm like, oh my God, because it's so demanding. If I don't land on the top of that section properly, for me to find where the 1 is or the 11 is or whatever it might be, it's a catastrophe. I'm like, sorry. I've literally gone, sorry, I lost it there, But it's funny because the other guys will know what's going on. They'll go, what happened to you there? Yeah. I went somewhere.
Cheetos.
Yeah.
I was thinking about Cheetos.
Yeah. Exactly. So, Oh, yeah.
Yeah. For me, it was always words. It sometimes is the anticipation of a lyric in another language too. That would happen a lot.
Oh,
where I'd be like, oh no, I just totally lost what the word was. And then I would end up putting another word in the same language, but it might even start with the same letter and be the same syllables, but was not the right word. So
right.
It's like,
right. Well, you know what I found? Because I don't use a teleprompter at all, which you wouldn't as well. because you're like moving around and you're acting and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But what I found is what I've done, and I never do it anymore, is if the guy's had an instrumental part, and then I go, oh yeah, so the next section when I come in is ba 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 ba, and then I'm like, oh no, wait a minute, where do I go after that? What's the lyric after that? And I freak myself out. So if I was to just go out on stage and just start singing the verse again, it just comes out naturally. But if I think about the lyric that I'm coming up to, I've completely caught myself and I've ruined it. I come out and I go, hey, baby, and they'll be like, what's he doing? Is he joking around? Yeah, I got to make it a joke because I don't know the lyric at this particular moment. So yeah, it's all part of entertainment. Yeah. It's pretty crazy.
Right.
Yeah.
Whenever it happens, it's live. It's happening. It's got to go on.
It is. Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
That's fun.
Yeah.
Do you still sing barbershop ever?
No. So barbershop was like when I was a little kid. I was about 12 years old. My dad sang and my older brother sang. My older brother Bruce sang tenor and my dad sang bass. And so one day my dad just said, hey, would you like to come and sing? Because they had already known, like I was already walking around the house singing. I was playing drums and it was just something I always did. So he's like, you should come down and I'll introduce you to all the other guys and then let's just see how you do. So I did. I'll still remember one thing, and it was the old songs, the good old songs for me, and all this stuff. But anyways, we were doing that. And then my dad would be singing the bass, and my brother would be singing the falsetto tenor and all that stuff. And it was so fun. I was just thrilled. I was like, oh my God. I'm with a bunch of other singers, and it just kept opening me up. But in elementary school, I had a music teacher, a voice teacher, and her name was Miss Montgraham. I still remember. And she took me aside and she put me into festivals and singing festivals, and because she knew I was serious about it. So yeah, it kind of started. I just kind of knew, from a very, very young age that I just love singing. Yeah. Is that the same with you?
Yeah.
So how old were you when you think you got serious about, hey, you know what? This is something that I want to pursue.
I was, I think, in 6th grade when I knew that I was going to pursue music.
Okay.
I was singing and playing the piano. So at that point, I just knew it was going to be music. I was already, killing it with some piano competitions because that can develop a lot earlier than a voice really can. But then it really switched focus to singing as being my main thing about 18, which I think is kind of similar for you. You went away from drums around 17, 18 to be more singing focused, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I think that's really because we have to kind of let the voice and the body mature, right? Bodies are weird. You've obviously had a lot of experiences with bodies needing to heal or change. And it's so interesting how I think it's kind of hard to discover what your voice is really going to be until you're out in that 17, 18, even early 20s sometimes, because that's when it starts to blossom.
Yeah. See, like with me, I was in rock bands from 14, I think 14. And in those bands, I was the drummer and lead vocalist.
Oh, that's cool.
And so for 3 years, I was playing drums and singing lead, and I was like, I'm an okay drummer, but I'm not a great drummer. So, but I know I can sing. And like I was singing Barracuda by heart when I was 16.
Oh.
And I could do that.
Yeah.
Right? But because my voice was very high, it was just like naturally high. But I was like, no, I'd love to be out front with a microphone and commanding the stage, And then so around 17, I went, I'm going to throw the drums aside. I'm going to pursue this. And it's funny now, my son plays drums. And about a year ago, during the pandemic, he says, hey, Dad, why don't you get behind the drums there? Let's see what you can do. And I go, yeah, no problem. And I'm thinking I'm still going to get back and, and I got on there and it was like, oh my God. My son chanced it, Dad, get off the set. Yeah, you're done. I'm like, don't worry about it. I'm out of here. Yeah. But anyways, yeah. So I think like yourself, you start to hear this instrument and you start saying to yourself, wait a minute, I think I can really do something with this.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think we can all admit to ourselves at some point, do you have it or don't you? Right? Like I've had so many singers go, well, how did you know when you have it? I said, I don't need to tell you if you have a good voice. Just go into the washroom and sing. And what are you hearing back? Are you liking what you hear? Or are you not? Like, I don't know. Like, that's what it was for me. That was the affirmation. Like, when I was singing, I was like, okay, that sounds okay.
Mm-hmm.
That's okay. Now I need to work on it. Now I need to really work on it. Because one of the things I remember reading, it was Luciano Pavarotti, and he said, you can never stop learning the voice. And I thought, wow, is that ever true? Because it doesn't matter how long you've been singing, and I'm sure you'll attest to this, you can still keep learning and developing. And it doesn't matter what your age is. It's what do you want to do with your voice?
Totally.
Yeah.
And it's just crazy. Like, we talked about this already, but the voice is just ever changing in a body. And you're going through so many different experiences in life. And, listening to you earlier and later and sort of hearing the differences, males' voices naturally deepen a little bit until you're older than you are now. And then they start to go up a little bit.
Okay. So I'll come back up again. Okay. All right.
That's why grandma and grandpa start to sound similar on the phone.
Yeah, but I don't want to sound thin and fragile. Right?
I mean, I think because you're working on the straw, like that's one of the things that I've seen really make it so people's voices don't age. It's so amazing. It's just incredible. That's the other thing is, like, sorry to interrupt, but when I'm talking to other singers, they got lazy during the pandemic and they're like, oh yeah, I started singing again, and oh my God. And I'm like, it's a muscle. Hey, guys, it's a muscle. But thankfully I kept doing this. Like, even if I missed a day, the next day I'd be like, well, okay, all right, okay, I got to do that. I'm going to sing through some songs, and that it doesn't matter if I'm only doing 45 minutes in the day. I still used it. Mm-hmm.
I still used it. And I remember thinking, if I sit around for a year and a half and I don't sing, I'm busted.
Yeah.
It will not be pretty. It will not be pretty. But yeah.
Totally agree. But why don't we talk a little bit about the changes, and especially because you had this vocal injury in the middle, and that's a huge change. I noticed, like, just from my ears, you sounded like you had more brightness, and that I would totally expect that just from growing older. You would have a little bit more brightness, probably a couple more high notes when you were really young. And then, of course, the sound gets more deeper and also a lot more stable, I would say, as you get older and just like more secure in your technique. But we also have this big consideration in the middle, which is a vocal injury. Now, I read that it usually says rupture vocal cord. And for me, that means you had a vocal hemorrhage. Is that correct?
I bled.
Okay.
I bled.
Cool.
Yes, I did. Yes. So it was food poisoning. It was food poisoning. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Like spitting out blood. And,
oh my gosh.
And then when I was in Cuba, my wife and I were in Cuba, and I ate breakfast, and, but 3 hours later, the room started spinning, and I got into the bathroom. My wife says, I don't even remember. Like, my wife just said, I had to help you in to the toilet. And I kept puking, and then it was the dry heaves, and I couldn't stop.
Yeah.
And the best thing, and I always like, shoulda, coulda, woulda, like I should have been guzzling down water and then puking it up. Guzzling down water. Maybe that would have stopped. I don't know. But I got to tell you, Elizabeth, it was the most horrific thing to happen to a singer, to any singer. I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy. And the thing is that the way that I was singing before the injury, I got to tell you, like, I could just sing. I could wake up and I could sing, and I could hit C sharps and D's and E's and F's, and it would be there. Sure as hell, it would be there every single time. I had this injury. I went and saw the ENT, and she said, oh my God, basically you bled on your vocal cord. Sometimes, she goes, so she had to put the scope down. Oh. She had to check it, like up through the nose, down there.
I was going to ask which one. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And that was like, and she goes, hum for me. And I'm like, and all this. And she was like, yeah, you've done some serious damage here. She says, I can't even tell you right now if it's irreparable. But she said, you should be taking 6 months off, doing nothing.
Wow.
Yep. And I said, well, I got some news for you. So I saw her January, I think it was like, 5th, 6th, 7th of 95. And in January 15th or 16th, I was in Japan singing 10 days later. And I told her that, and she said,
don't do it.
Yeah. And I did. Because Dream Theater was just coming out. We had a brand new album. We'd done the fall tour. That's the thing. Like, if you could go back and hear the shows from the fall of 94, when I was going through the States and Canada singing, that was when the voice was like, let's go, boom, boom. And then bang, I'm in Japan singing, and I'm like, and I'm cracking. And I was like, and I was completely beside myself, like, oh my God, what's going on? What am I going to do? Is this it? Am I done?
Of course.
And then having to sing, like the Awake album, if you listen, I'm singing in the freaking stratosphere here and there. And I'm like, so I'm going up to hit a C sharp, and I'm struggling on a C sharp, whereas it used to be, I'd hit a C sharp, no problem.
Yeah.
It would just come out. And so the whole thing, and it probably, I'm not kidding you when I say this, because a lot of people have asked, okay, so that was 95. When did you feel that everything was back online? And I said, maybe the Train of Thought tour, which was 2004, and so I went out, but the thing is that ever since that accident, I've had to be really careful.
Of course.
Because I don't have the endurance or the stamina that I had previous, so I have to really watch it. And that's why I started, looking to this person or that person, and I studied with Victoria Thompson, and then I went to Jamie Ventura, and then my first vocal coach before my injury was Rosemary Burns, and down in Toronto. And so it was, for me, it was just wanting to learn more about the voice. But it got to the point, no, can you help me? How can I get through these rigorous and torturing tours where I'm still singing 5-6 nights a week? And it was just, whatever. I'm not looking for sympathy because I picked my instrument. It was very unfortunate what happened. And I guess at the end of the day, I did the best I could.
Yeah, no, it sounds like you handled it. Like, I mean, you did what you could. I think exactly right. I know with hemorrhages, a lot of times you don't actually see blood because it's usually like in the top layer of the vocal fold, but you don't, it doesn't exit. And like if you were seeing blood as well, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That's I'm not really talking big hemorrhage.
I'm not talking about a lot of, but I'd spit well, here's the other thing. So when I spit into the toilet and, my wife Karen was like, oh my God. And I'm like, what? And within 2 hours, Elizabeth, I had no voice. I couldn't even speak for 3 days. And when I could speak again, it was a whisper. And I was freaking out. I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to be in Japan in 3.5 weeks. Yeah. What am I going to do? And she's like, it's okay. Karen's like, it's okay. You're just going to relax. You're going to relax. No, this is
my livelihood. This is me. Yeah. How do I relax?
Yeah. Thanks, honey. I appreciate that, but that's not going to work. And it was, it was a nightmare, whatever. It was a very dark period in my life. I went through a lot of bullshit because of that. I had to go through, it was a very, very trying period in my life, for sure.
I'm curious, like most people I've known lots of people that have had vocal hemorrhages, right? I've been in opera for such a long period of time and worked with singers for such a long period of time. If you're a professional singer, like, it is very likely at some point that you'll have some kind of vocal damage. It's just kind of surprising how many people don't talk about it. Like I had vocal nodules at various points in life, and I had to learn how to work through that and what was triggering it, and et cetera, et cetera. Vocal nodules are a pain. Vocal nodules, or nodes, are sometimes called singer's nodules because they are one of the most frequent disorders that can occur in professional singers. They look like 2 small bumps rising out of each vocal fold and are essentially small calluses from where the tissue is building up as a result of repetitive collision between the vocal folds. Greater impact force and more frequent impacts, or higher pitches, can make a person more likely to develop this, as well as singing on vocal folds that are dehydrated or swollen. In my case, I was singing roles that were both high and loud, and I had allergies, which caused my vocal tract to be perpetually dry and irritated. Nodules drastically reduce a singer's range and vocal efficiency, and often make it necessary to sing louder in order to produce a pitch, which in turn can make the nodules worse. If left untreated, or if a singer continues to perform with nodules, sometimes they will require surgical removal. But most of the time, nodules can go away with vocal rest and therapy. I worked with an otolaryngologist, allergist, and vocal coach, and eventually overcame them. Pavarotti had nodules, and he quit singing for a year and then came back. I remember at one point I was at the Cleveland Clinic because I had this flare up of them, and it seems like it was very much associated with allergies for me. And I remember seeing his picture on the wall and thinking, okay, I can get through this. But I feel that for a professional singer, that it's just so devastating, because it's not just it's a job. Like it feels like you identify with your voice, right. You self-identify with it. It's part of who you are. Yep. And so it's more like my purpose in life feels like it's been taken away somehow. Right?
Oh yeah. You lose your identity. You just, you're lost. You feel very helpless. It doesn't matter how many people are going to be around you saying, I feel for you, and I see what you're going through, and I'm here. And it's like, well, I appreciate it. I thank you. But this is my own battle. It's a battle from within, and you have to deal with it. At the end of the day, no one else is going to make you better. You got to figure out a way to get better. And you're talking about nodules and all that. And I've never had that. I've never had that situation. And I would have thought, like after my injury, I would have thought I remember thinking, oh shit, the next thing that I'm going to get is nodes.
Right?
Because I'm pushing myself more so than I ever did before in my life. And for whatever, I didn't. But regardless of not having nodes, I was sounding like there were many concerts up there where I shouldn't have been there. I should not have been there.
So I'm curious, like, since you kept singing on it, because most singers that I know would just have stopped and canceled, especially for opera singers, like would have just canceled some shows. But I mean, with opera, you have another countess that can come and fill in. So it's not like it's going to destroy the whole run. When you're the lead singer of a band that has as complicated music as you do, I don't know how you could possibly have another choice.
Right. And the thing is, too, is it was very early in our career.
Yeah.
And we had just come off a hit album with Images and Words, and we were trying to keep that wave going and ride that wave. And the label's there, and they're pushing you, and they're like, no, you just released this album, and you got to get behind it. You got to support it. We got to sell like you did the album before, and boom, boom, boom. And you had all this pressure. Now, if we had been in a situation where we are today, where we're all well off and we're good, then it would have been, I would have just said, guys, you got to give me that period of time to heal. And, I think that if that had happened, I probably would have come back with less complications.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that I would have come back and probably, I don't know if I would have fully healed, but I would think, because I would have followed all the instructions to the T.
Yeah.
I'd have to. It's in my best interest too. So I don't know. It's just it was very unfortunate. You wouldn't believe like the amount of times that I've had a dream where I'm back in that situation, and that it's just that like a movie scene. I'm going for breakfast. I'm eating my rice and pork. I think it was in the pork, but anyways, yeah. So it's crazy. Yeah, it's crazy.
I also I know that there's so many things that can happen from a hemorrhage right at that point, where essentially like if the blood is staying in the vocal fold because it can't all exit. I know that explains why the vocal folds just don't want to vibrate. Like normally they're supposed to be like super blubbery.
Yeah.
so that they can do that. And then the blood makes it essentially less blubbery. So they can't vibrate at that consistency. So high notes in particular, where they're supposed to vibrate super fast, like that would have just been out of the question. No wonder C sharps were hard.
Yeah, no.
Right.
They would have been like, I'm okay like this, but no more, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
so do you think you had like bruising that continued or like scarring that continued that you had to keep then working through for several years?
Well, here's the thing though. Like every year, once a year, I would go see my ENT. She'd do the whole scope thing. Okay, everything looks good now. Everything looks good now. And I'm like, why? Why is that? And she'd say, why? What's the problem? And I'd say, I'm not singing like I used to. She goes, you're not going to. You did some serious damage there. And I'm saying, but you're telling me everything's good now? Oh, yeah. Like it looks like everything else is back online. And I even did, the last scope that I had on myself was September 2019. I didn't, obviously, during the pandemic. But that was like, and everything looked fine. But what I think, Elizabeth, is I think, to me, that because it was so drastic, the switch, it's almost like I think somebody went in there. This is what I think, and I know I'm completely way off base, but somebody went in and went whack with a knife and cut off about the top end of my cords so that I don't have that stretch anymore. I mean, I think there was something more severe that happened than what was captured or told back to me through scope. But she said that she's never said you got a scarring or anything like that. She's never told me that. So I don't know. I don't know.
Well, that's super fortunate too. Like that, it doesn't seem like there's scarring that happened. I mean, like it could be that there's just like a little thickening that happened sort of in the healing and that would make it right. So that it was, the cords wouldn't want to stretch as much. Right. Oh, but that's, I mean, it's so fascinating. And do you think that the straw in the water bottle, do you feel like that's probably been the thing that's helped you recover the most?
Yeah.
It's astonishing how transparent James is about everything surrounding his vocal injury. Vocal health is closely intertwined with a singer's identity and self-worth, and experiencing the trauma that James went through would cause many singers to quit. But he kept going. And he's still releasing albums today, including his new solo album, Beautiful Shade of Grey, which came out on May 20th of 2022. James's determination to continue and press through for the band and his attention to recovery and vocal health now make him a glowing inspiration. Next week, we'll dive into more of what James is currently working on. We'll also talk about his pre-performance routine, work-life balance, and answer some particularly keen patron questions. If you enjoyed this episode and have a minute, we'd greatly appreciate your help getting word out. Rate this podcast, share it, and leave a review letting us know what else you'd like to hear. Thanks for listening today, and I hope we get to enjoy more great conversation together soon. Until then, may you fall more in love with music every day.